You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon. Sorry, I got myself a little excited there. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, because there's people watching us everywhere right now. West Coast, East Coast, out in Europe, over in Europe. We're glad to have you with us. Welcome to TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle. Great to have you with us. We're back for our second week after our hiatus here in July, and lots to talk about. Let me move this Zodiac thing out of here because I don't know if it causes me any issues or what. But just leave it there. Actually, I can't because it's going to... Oh, there we go. Hopefully we didn't cause any problems there. Bear with me one second. There we go. Welcome, everybody watching today on Facebook, our Facebook page, our YouTube page, our live personal page on Facebook. Boy, I'm having trouble tonight. This show will be repeated tonight at midnight on Roku, and it'll also be live on tomorrow. Not live, but repeated, plausibly live, if you will, as golf likes to do. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel, and also 9 a.m. a Saturday on the Roku channel for National Streaming Sports. We'll also get it shared to Twitter and whatnot. And thank you to all the groups that allow me to share these. Although Facebook in their extraordinary wisdom has blocked me from sharing for a little bit. So viewership is down a little bit on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness because they stopped me and said, you can start sharing again on the 18th. I love Facebook, bunch of Nazis. Hopefully we're still live. I also want to say thanks to some of the groups that do let me share when I'm able. The Bottom Line Sports team with Flo in the group. They do some great stuff over there too. Check them out on Let's Talk Sports. Greg Rawlings, who America's Pastime, which doesn't apply necessarily to the college football world. America's Pastime love for baseball, but he also does some football groups. And I got to get Greg on one day so he can. I mean, he does so many sites and admins so many sites and brings guys like me in to help him. But he also lets me share my content. And I think Football is Life is one of his. So we'll give Greg a shout out. And of course, John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities. What a great, the Sport Authorities are such a great group. John's such a great admin, and he's been a big help to this show since the very, very beginnings of it. So thank you to all three of you guys and all the groups that allow me to share. A lot of college football groups, and we'll start mentioning you guys. Reach out to me personally so I know you're watching and you want a shout out. I'll be glad to give it to any of you, and anybody who pops into the show. I always give a shout out to their shows as well. Shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media, and he does a lot of great stuff on YouTube, Facebook, specifically the Sports Corner with Smokin' Jim Frazier on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Check that out. DDH, thumbs up. And a quick shout out and a thank you to Brian McCrae, my guest last week on One-on-One with Keith Engle. My guest this week will be no stranger to the people that watch this show, Larry Sorensen, former Major League Baseball pitcher with the Brewers, the A's, the Cardinals, a bunch of different teams. Larry is, as you know, the color coordinator, the color analyst for Wake Forest baseball, Wake Forest football. He's on this show a lot with us during football season. But we're going to have Larry on the One-on-One show Friday. We'll talk about his career a little bit, but we've already done that interview with Larry a few years ago. So we'll touch on his career from 10,000 feet, but we want to get Larry's opinion on the world of college football and the way it stands today when NIL and pay for play, transfer portal, unlimited. Basically, amateurism is dead. But we'll talk about that with Larry, and also Major League Baseball and the state of it with Larry Sorensen on Friday. Also, we'll have Sidney Moncrief in the spirit of this show, former Arkansas Razorback great in basketball, later with the Bucks, and Ernie DiGregorio, stand out at Providence in the 70s in college, and then the Buffalo Braves on the 30th. So that's the next 2 weeks, the 23rd and the 30th, will be those two gentlemen. We're excited to do it. Tonight, though, it's college football, guys. we're going to jump into some topics tonight. Who we got with us? So Ralph Williams with us, as I just mentioned, from RW Media. Ralph does great stuff. I always mention the Sports Corner from 4 to 6 p.m. Tuesdays that he does with Smoking Jim Frazier, but Ralph does some great stuff in Pittsburgh. Covers nationwide, sports nationwide, but he really focuses on the Pittsburgh market, Steelers and specifically. And he's got some stuff with politics, and Ralph touches all the bases. We do a little bit of that with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness, but I try not to delve too deep because some of our guys are too rabid when it comes to politics, me included. Ralph, you're welcome, buddy. Good to have you with us tonight. Guys, it's your show. Feel free to bring up topics as we do every week. We could talk, I don't want to talk a lot about Jim Harbaugh, but, Jim Harbaugh still proclaims his innocence. He's got really to me, a no-tooth penalty. He's never going back to college, so a 1-year suspension and 4-year show God, what's the term now? I can't think of the term. Isn't that terrible? I'll be 64 tomorrow, guys. Can you tell? It gets scary sometimes. Show cause. Thank you, Jesus in my head. Jesus in my head, wherever you are, Jesus. Show cause, big deal. Who cares? I'm getting tired of talking about off the field stuff. We need on the field stuff to talk about. Texas loses another running back. Oh, God. We'll talk some preseason All-Americans. We'll look at the AP top 25. Last week, we looked at the coaches preseason 25. We'll kind of compare it to the AP. We'll talk about the group of 5 and some of the best candidates to come out of there. Remember, they're going to get an automatic bid into this 12-team tournament. Washington's interesting season. I don't believe they're ranked in the AP top 25. Or are they? Let me just check real quick. I do not believe they are. They are not. They are not ranked in either poll. And you got to go back quite a ways. I want to say, oh boy, I can't even remember now. I read this earlier today. You got to go back quite a ways, though, to find a team who had a season like they had and is not ranked. Going to the final and not ranked, but they lost 20 out of 22 starters have left. Now they got some decent players coming in to replace them from the portal. Quarterback from Mississippi State, Rogers, running back, All-American running back from Arizona, fouled Jed Finch up there. So we'll see how that goes. We'll talk a little bit about some of the biggest, who we expect to be the biggest jump in wins, and whatever other topics come up in the course of the day. And pretty soon we'll have some games. And as we look at that top 25 too, I'd like to look at some of the each one of them, what their biggest early season game is. Thank you, Ralph, for the happy birthday wishes. My last day as a 63-year-old. My wife has reminded me all day. 64. Never thought I'd see 64. Honest to God, can't believe it. AC's with us. How are you, AC? AC joined us for the first time last Friday. It was a big contributor on the one-on-one show, I believe, especially as we were trying to kill some time waiting for our guests to show up. And then later on in the MLB update, and we missed you on Sunday. Sunday's a show you're gonna love, AC. Tonight's college football, just to be clear. And do I bet sports? Yes, I have been known to wager now and again. I don't wager a lot anymore, but college football, pro football, those are the things I usually bet on. We have a bunch of guys that, so we don't necessarily go through the legal routes necessarily. It's not illegal, but we have a bunch of guys who participate, and there's a kitty that the money all goes into, and we have a certain amount of games or money games you can bet, money you can bet each week, and that's how I participate. Had a good year last year. I mean, again, not betting tons of money. I managed to come out $800 or $900 ahead once the college and pro season was over, which was at the top of our cigar box list. So I'll take that. There were days that wasn't a lot of money, but thank you, AC. It's tomorrow, but It's only 4 hours and 50 minutes away. And you can say goodbye to Keith being 63. Thank you, sir. What are you doing in Boston? You're partying in Boston over the weekend. We're in upstate New York here. I'm a Patriot fan of New York, but a New York fan otherwise, mostly. Hurricanes in college through marriage. But we're up in the Albany area, Saratoga area. I'm not sure if you know it, but whatever. We're not going to talk too much about the Super Bowl tonight, AC, but we'll get into that as the Stream of Consciousness Sundays show moves on. We talk a lot of professional football and college football on Sundays once we get to this time of year. A value bet, I'd have to look, and again, I'm not prepared to discuss that tonight, but I think there's some teams out there with it on the money line that would be a decent future bet. I'll be stupid and throw away, a $100 bill on the Patriots. Not a value bet. If they win, it's going to be a nice payoff, but not a value bet. So we're not going to dive too much into that tonight, but I'll be happy to answer that question as we go forward at some point for sure. Hello, Rick. Good to have you with us. And the Mohawks, the Amsterdam Mohawks, which is a college, summer college baseball league, similar to the old Cape Cod League. And there was a league in Alaska years ago. I remember Tom Seaver very famously played there after he came out of USC and before he got to the Mets. But they've won, gosh, I don't know how many championships they've won. Wilson and Williams, you know what? Maybe let me make a note, Rick. And hopefully you're here Friday morning, Rick, and I'll let you bring it up so you'll really sound smart. Mohawks. Wilson and Williams. I will bring that up to Larry on Friday for sure. Larry's one great friend of this show. Former Major League Baseball pitcher and current color analyst with Wake Forest football, Wake Forest baseball, and we'll have Larry on the one-on-one interview show. And Larry, you'll see on the show from time to time as the season goes on as well. So thanks for bringing it up, Rick. You know the Saratoga area well? Good. The rivers in Schenectady, excellent. You know what? A lot of good music coming through the outdoor theater there as well. I see. Lake George is huge, and certainly this is their season. Saratoga and Lake George, huge. I was in Lake George. We went to Lake Placid for the weekend, back in late May, I think. Maybe it was early June. I don't remember. We went up for a weekend, and on the way back, we spent the day, Sunday in Lake George, had a blast. Just out in front of the crowds, right? They were just starting to kind of fill up. The summer people were just arriving, and it's a great area. Great area. I'm probably, I don't know, I guess maybe an hour's ride to Lake George from where we are. Just south of Saratoga we are in Clifton Park, Half Moon area. So we haven't talked any college football yet. AC played hockey in Lake Placid as a kid. Lake Placid is a winter wonderland like I've never seen before. It's great in the winter. We were up there in May, which was fun. We had a blast. And it's a quaint little town, I'll tell you. It's kind of a throwback, and it's hard to sit there and imagine, I guess from an amateur sports viewpoint. You take a look at the Paris Olympics we just had, right? Imagine the Olympics being in a little town like Lake Placid. It's really amazing. So, yeah, I can't see it happening today. My wife and I had this discussion when we were there, and when was the last time they were in a tiny little venue like Lake Placid or even Innsbruck in Austria? They don't go to these places anymore. They go to Salt Lake where they'll be, I don't know, what was it, 30, 32 maybe, the Winter Olympics. The Winter Olympics got a better shot probably than the Summer Olympics of going to a small venue, but probably unlikely. No, it'll never happen. No, you got to fly into Albany. That's where everybody flew into, was Albany, and they drive, 2 hours to Lake Placid on these desolate roads. I can't imagine what it was like in 1980. The traffic must have been crazy. Beautiful, quaint little town, as you know, AC. Anyway, let's dive into some college football. Well, you can't, unless you put them into parachutes, you can't fly them in there, that's for sure, because as I said, Albany's the closest airport. Let's look quick. I want to get into, and again, I don't want to, if you guys, anybody here wants to talk Harbaugh, we can, but I'm done with Michigan and this thing, you know. I know I got into it a little bit, well, not into it, but Rick and I discussed kind of the differences between Michigan and Chicago, Georgia's situations. And I want to be clear, because John DeLon, if John DeLon pops in, I'm sure he'll call me out on this. And Rick kind of did a couple weeks ago. I don't really defend the Michigans of the world, right? My point is the stuff's happening all the time, and there's selective prosecution that gets done. They decide they want you, they come and they get you. End of story. And teams like Michigan with coaches that are probably universally disliked, like Harbaugh is, unless you wear blue and maize. They catch the wrong end of the stick. So it is what it is. You're going to see these things happen, and a blind eye will be turned to other situations. And Michigan's transgressions are on the field or in recruiting. I'm a little more, I only bring up the Georgia situation because to me, it's as important or more important than infractions that Michigan's been accused of. And I love Kirby. I think Kirby Smart's the best coach in America, guys, at this moment. Best coach ever, just retired. But I think it's a slippery slope, and you've got to be careful that you don't look like you've lost control of your program, or somebody's going to start asking questions. And once you're on the radar, they'll get you if they want you. That's all I meant. And Georgia's going to start out again. What is this, Rick, if you're still with me? On a more positive note, this has got to be the fourth or at least the fourth year in a row that Georgia's going to start the preseason at the top of the polls. We mentioned last week they were at the top of the coaches poll. As we go forward, we mostly use the AP poll. They got 46 first place votes there. Ohio State got 15. Oregon got 1. We're pretty much the same right through 7. It's Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame a lot. Riley Leonard is a key to that team. He stays healthy. This team's a top 5 team. And they can't get one of the top 4 spots in the playoff because they're an independent. But this is a team that could do some damage in the postseason tournament. You got Michigan and Penn State swapping spots in these two polls. Penn State is 8 and Michigan 9 in the AP poll. Florida State 10 as they are in the other poll. I talked last week that I think Michigan is probably overranked to start the season. You've lost too many key people. You've lost your coach. You've lost your quarterback, who's also out now. But that's a story we'll get into on Sunday. And you lost one of the best running backs in the country, plus a bunch of other guys. I think they had, I don't know what they had around 10 guys drafted, I believe. So I think Penn State falls out. Michigan falls out of this top 10 ranking fairly soon. And we're going to look at some of these early season matchups for some of these teams soon. Missouri, Utah, and LSU are in the next 3 spots, down from 11 to 13. They're in the same spots in the other poll, just swapped around a little bit. Same thing with Clemson, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. I don't like Oklahoma's chances this year. 4 or 5 of their wins last year with the sub-500 teams. They lost to Kansas. They had one big win. They beat Texas, which is a good win. I'm not saying, but Oklahoma State, I like Mike Gundy. I think, again, 7 teams can win that Big 12. I like Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State to win it. Kansas State and Miami. I don't understand. Every year, I'm a Miami fan through, and as the season goes on and we get into long sleeves again, you'll see my Miami gear come out. But every year they get my hopes up with these rankings, and some people picking them to get in the playoff, and then my hopes are dashed. Mike Elko returns to Texas A&M and try to get things back on the rails there. They're at 20. Arizona lost a lot, lost their coach, lost some other best players transferring to Washington. Kansas, who I think is going to be really good and a good chance again for them to possibly pull out that Big 12. USC, who I think is possibly going to be a big disappointment this year. NC State and Iowa, we had biggest early season games for each team. Let me catch up with a couple of comments here while we do this. Georgia's going to be looking for revenge. I don't disagree. Listen, I picked them last year to three-peat, as it's well documented on these shows, and they were close to doing it. I think they'll be better this year, even without Brock Bauer. I think that Carson Beck is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think he's right now the third choice in the Heisman voting, if you will, polling. It's by the gambling site, so we'll see. I do like Georgia a lot this year. Listen, the SEC is going to be a monster. I mean, I still say, geez, and again, I get on the SEC elitists a lot here, right? Who's your college team, AC, by the way? I can't get into the odds. I can do it, I guess. Hold on. Because what I use for my second computer here is my work computer, so I'll find the Notre Dame odds for you. Notre Dame. That'd be a good one, I'm telling you right now. They are plus 2,000 to win the national championship. That's a good bet right there. I'm telling you, you want an outsider? 2,000 on a $100 bet, AC. I'm saying it's going to happen, but remember, another big thing to remember: SEC, Big Ten, ACC, no more divisions. So no weak link, weak link can get to a championship game. It's going to be the top two teams in every conference. I can see Georgia. Talked about this last week. Georgia, Mississippi, Texas, I think are probably as close to locks as you can get to all be in the tournament. Now the question is going to be, can they get a fourth team in? I think Alabama I think Alabama might struggle a little bit early. I think by the time they're clicking and like they play on the road in Oklahoma, I think I want to say in November. And we can look at any of these teams. We want to look at records. We stop and we'll go through their schedule as we start to have a dispute. I think Alabama gets better as the season goes on. I think Milroe is going to flourish in Kalen DeBoer's offense. You saw what he did for Michael Penix the last 2 years of Michael Penix's career in Washington. Just think that he doesn't have the weapons, Milroe, that Penix had, but I still think there's a great potential there. So let's look at some of these early season matchups that I mentioned. Actually, we'll look at the whole top 25. I'm going to look at Georgia. I'm going to look at ESPN's ceiling and floor. Ceiling and floor. See if I disagree. So we've gone through the top 25, their ceiling, their floor, and then their key game. So it's not necessarily an early season game. So there you go. I gave you this 2,000 plus 2,000. $100 wager gets you $2,000. $1 gets you 20. Your college team is BC, Matty Ice, Rick Sherlock, and many of the viewers that follow the show, my most loyal viewers, if you will, are fellow Perthites. We grew up in Perth, New York, just north of Amsterdam, which you know the area, but you may not know the western part, Fulton County, Montgomery County. Josh Beekman, with a good friend of mine. I used to play in a golf foursome with him every Saturday, and his son Charles Beekman. So Charles Beekman, his son Josh Beekman, was a fellow classmate of Matty Ice, and one of the guys protecting his butt on the offensive line. Was drafted by the Bears, I believe in the third round. Played a few years in Chicago and then kicked around a little bit there in the UFL. And Josh is now back at Boston College, I think, as part of that staff. So anyway, we start with Georgia. The ceiling 12-0, absolutely. The floor 8-4. Can they lose 4 games? I mean, they did lose, as we said, Brock Bowers, McConkey, Rosemary Jack Saint. But Carson Beck is back. He's got one of the best offensive lines in the country. They got to have guys step up. Val Smith, Lovett. These are guys, and again, if they can develop chemistry, they'll be fine. Their key game, open with Clemson. I've said all along. I've said it since before we went on a hiatus in July. This is a key game. 14 Clemson is ranked. I think this might be the ESPN rankings, but that's fine. Clemson is out to show that, Dabo way is the way. NIL and transfer portal isn't everything. We'll find out. It's in Atlanta. And by the way, Rick, maybe you could answer this, and maybe there's an answer. Why doesn't Kirby, when was the last non-conference game he really traveled to? Big game that he traveled to. It seems like play all their neutral field games in Atlanta. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I don't remember Georgia really going on the road and taking on a major opponent outside of the conference. Now, I know, again, I understand the road schedule in conference can be prohibitive, and it will be this year. Can this team lose? Can this team lose 4 games? Let's look. Rick's with us. We'll go right through the Clemson could be a loss, right? Alabama could be a loss. Texas could be a loss. Ole Miss could be a loss. So I guess there's a room there for 4 losses at the worst end of this, as they're saying here with ESPN. Okay. Ohio State, again, ceiling 12-0, floor 8-4. They go 8-4, lose to Michigan. Ryan Day's looking for a job. Guaranteed. That's a road game, though. Well, again, it's still a conference game, though, Rick. I can't count that one. I'm talking about non-conference on the road. True road game. I can't think of the last time they went and played one. Like Alabama went to Texas. Right? 2 years ago, wasn't it? They lost. I can't, and I'm sure they have. But again, that conference games, I'm talking about they got to play. And again, it's a neutral site, the Swamp. I get that. But even road games, I'm not counting conference. I want to know who they play non-conference, top program on the road. Alabama played Texas 2 years ago. They're going to Oklahoma. Well, they're out there in the league. So, and again, the same could be true for Alabama now that I think about it. I mean, they did go play Texas 2 years ago. And when you're playing, again, I know John DeLon brought this up, and John's not here to defend himself. I'm not really going to say anything bad, but when you're playing the gauntlet that these SEC teams are playing, I can see why you don't do it. But again, and you don't need to. I mean, if you're Georgia or Alabama, you don't need to boost your resume. So there's no need to go. But I'm just asking the question. I can't remember the last time they did it. Chris is with us, our Canadian Toronto correspondent, as we open up the vault to see what's inside. Alan D. Neese, Jacksonville, Florida, high school produced. Oh, that's the high school. Alan Dean's high school. I thought we were talking about him. Produced Mario Butler and Tim Tebow. Mr. Tebow turns 37 today. Is that really true? My God. Tim Tebow's 37 years old. Next thing you're going to tell me I'm going to be 64. Tim Tebow, whatever anybody thinks about Tim Tebow, one of the best college football players of all time. Top 5, easy. Easy. I was early. I guess these are early. So in October, I guess it's still early. Their key game early, Iowa, October 5th. This team loaded up. Quarterback, cornerback. They brought in some of the top guys in the transfer portal. Ryan Day goes 8-4. Ryan Day should be looking for a job. Oregon 12-0, 9-3. Ceiling and floor. Key game. This is a big one. Their first real Big Ten test. And people have great hopes. Obviously, number 3. A lot of the projections and the computer projections. Oregon comes out a winner in this national championship race. But they've got to play Ohio State October 12th, their first big matchup. But they've also got Boise State. They got Oregon State. They got Michigan State. These are all early. Michigan State will be better this year. Oregon State's going to be worse. Boise State is one of the top. Has one of the better chances of the group of 5 teams to get into that playoff. Boise State's going to be very good this year. So Ohio State early, October 12th, big matchup. Texas, ceiling 12-0, floor 8-4. Hard to imagine any of these teams going 8-4. Their key early game at Oklahoma. I'm sorry, that's in Dallas. My bad. Oklahoma on that's going to be the Red River rivalry. Obviously, it still will live on with both these teams going to the SEC. That's on October 12th. I mean, on paper, Texas would be loaded, but they just lost. Where's my notes here? Come on, back it up. How did I get there? I have no idea how I got there. Let's go to this one. I'm trying to get to my news. I guess I don't need the rankings here anymore. I can go there. Texas lost a running back today. Another running back. Who was it today? They lost their second season-ending injury on Monday when true freshman Kristen Clark tore an Achilles tendon. He'll be out for the season. That's 6 days after announcing C.J. Baxter, last year's opening game starter, will undergo season-ending surgery. So they better be deep. Jaden Blue's next up. They better be good. Alabama, ranked 5, maybe a little high to start. We'll go through their I think the floor, they have 7-5. 8-4 would not be the worst thing ever to happen to this team. 10-2 would be really good and probably enough to get them into a playoff. 12-0 might be high for the ceiling. Kalen DeBoer's first season here. It's hard to be the guy to replace the guy. I keep saying that. But Kalen DeBoer can coach, and he can coach quarterbacks. He did a great job with Michael Penix in Washington. Yes, he had tremendous receivers. But and they're going to get Georgia early this year, September 28th. Key game. If we look at some of these other hang on, I'm going to go to I keep knocking myself around here and I can't find where I'm going. Let's look at Alabama's schedule real quick. Western Kentucky, no problem. South Florida, no problem. At Wisconsin, I'm surprised this isn't the key game. See, Alabama, that's a real road game. That's a tough road game on the road. A tough road game on the road. What a stupid thing to say. True road game against a good program. Down a little bit of pressure there. after probably a bit of a down year last year. They've got to go to Camp Randall, not an easy place to play. Luke Fickell again, pressure's on him to kind of perform, I think, this year. That's another team to keep their eye on. Maybe AC to make the playoff. They'd be a good team to make a bet on. So after the first two games, they got Wisconsin and Florida. I'm sorry, Wisconsin and Georgia. Wisconsin's on the road. Georgia's at home. They got Vanderbilt. They got South Carolina. Let's just say I'm going to say they lose to Wisconsin at home. I'm going to say they lose to Georgia. But then I'm going to say they run the table. The only team, they got to go to Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee is going to be as good as they've been the last 2 years. Missouri had a great year last year. Would have made the playoff most likely if we'd had 12 teams last year. I think they'll beat Missouri. I think they beat LSU. And then they beat Oklahoma, and they got the Iron Bowl. They got Mercer in between. This team, I think, is 9-3, 10-2. I think they get better as the year goes on. Ole Miss, 10-2, ceiling, floor 6-6. 6-6 would be a disaster for this team. I've talked a lot about how Lane Kiffin's one of my favorite coaches, one of the best coaches, offensive minds in the country in my mind. He's the king of the transfer portal. He's got a very, very seasoned quarterback in Jackson Dart. He would have made a playoff last year as well. Just missed getting to the championship game. He can't beat Alabama. He can't beat Georgia. He's kind of got, and I get on James Franklin, and I guess I can't get on James Franklin without getting on one of my favorites, Lane Kiffin, because Franklin can't beat Ohio State or Michigan, but he has won 3 games against those two teams and lost 17, I think. Something like that. I don't think Lane Kiffin has yet to beat either Georgia or Alabama. Their big game early is at South Carolina on October 5th. Fighting Irish, we just talked about, ceiling 12-0. Floor 8-4. 8-4 would be a disaster for Marcus Freeman in his third year. I think he's growing as a coach, as I keep saying. I like Riley Moore a lot. They got this key game, August 31st. Again, week 1, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Mike Elko arrives. That defense will be better. He was their defensive coordinator. I think he'll bring a sense of normalcy to this program that has been lacking recently. Notre Dame has improved some of those skill position players around the quarterback. So if Riley Leonard stays healthy, I think this team could go 12-0. 11-1 at worst. Let's take a look at their record or their schedule very quickly here. I keep getting in the wrong screen. Notre Dame, A&M, I think they're going to beat them. I think they'll beat them. It's on the road. Great week 1 game. Then they got Illinois. Northern Illinois is a win. Purdue's not going to be very good this year. Games on the road shouldn't be a problem. Miami, no. Louisville will be good. Louisville will be good in Brahms' second year. But it's at home. Notre Dame wins. They'll beat Stanford. They'll beat Georgia Tech, an improved Georgia Tech team. They'll beat an improved Navy team. Florida State on 11-9, key game. Virginia, they win. Army, they win. USC, I think, has a really down year. This is an 11-1, 12-0 team in Notre Dame. If they don't go 11-1 minimum, it's a disappointment in Notre Dame. It's a disappointment in South Bend, without a doubt. Who else is out here I can't see? Joe Calderon. How are you, Joe? Joe will be getting ready to broadcast high school football games here soon. Joe, send me your link. If you're watching, please send me your link through Messenger or wherever's best for you. Patty Blylevin, I see out there, not commenting, but here, Vinny Fiorello. How are you, Vinny? Out in Amsterdam, the old stomping grounds. Ralph, we talked to Ashton Dix. How you doing, Ashton? Good to have you with us. One of Dan Harris's guys. Good to have you paying attention with us tonight. Let's keep going down this list of ceilings and floors. Penn State 12-0, 8-4. This is a team that wouldn't surprise me if they go 8-4. I think West Virginia can go to Penn State and win this game. Opening game. This used to be a big rivalry. West Virginia going to the Big 12 kind of put a damper on it. I think this is a big game. Penn State needs to win this game. After that, if things get easier for them until they get USC on October 12th. But they do have a pretty, they go to Los Angeles to play USC, as I said. Then they got a tough stretch, which includes Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Washington. I mean, they talk about the game against the Trojans setting the tone. I think this game against West Virginia might set the tone for the season. If they lose it, 8-4 is in play. 12-0. You haven't beaten, and I'm assuming they have them on their schedule. I mean, you haven't beaten. Can I just click here and get to my schedule that I want? Yeah, I can. Good. West Virginia. That's on the road, by the way. Sorry. That's in not Blacksburg. Where do they play? It'll come to me. But they got Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois after that. Should all be wins. They got UCLA at home. Should be wins. They should be 5-0 when they get to play USC in Los Angeles. And they got that stretch of games we talked about. Then they got that Ohio State game. They're not getting by this team. They're not going 12-0. They have yet to beat them. They got them at home. I can see this team 10-2, 10-3, or 9-3. Not that far-fetched. By the way, the people I mentioned, I can't see everybody, but just the people that I can see. And if you comment, guys, feel free to comment. You don't have to come in, and I'm happy when you come in just to say hi and pop out. I always see some new names and familiar names, but people that don't always maybe participate, they don't have to. College football show's not for everybody. It's for college fanatics like me and everybody that tunes in, and things will get rolling once the season starts and we got our SEC guys in here, and we'll have a lot of fun, believe me. But the Sunday stream of consciousness for you guys who aren't looking for something, so specific as the college football huddle, Sunday stream of consciousness is anything goes, basically, man. All the sports are in play. Pop culture's in play. Once in a while, we even put politics in play. Not to any great extent, because I get ugly and, things get so. Michigan 11-1 ceiling. I just can't see it. They got a key game September 7th, second week of the season against Texas at home. Again, there's Texas going on the road and playing a really good program. So where's Georgia and their non-conference road games? Where are they? It's a hot summer's night, but I can taste that Campbell's chili. Already talking this college football. Campbell's chili. Making homemade chicken chili. My wife makes the best chicken chili. Oh my God, to die for. I think 6-6 is more likely for this team than 11-1. We're talking about Michigan. New coach with questions around, whether he'll even be around for the start of the season, with a suspension potentially looming. They're still trying to sort out their quarterback position. Seventh-year player Jack Huddle and dual threat Alex Orji are at the top of the depth chart there now. The big story there is they bring in veteran defense coordinator Wink Martindale, formerly of the Giants and the Ravens, to not the game show host, guys, the defensive coordinator. I think that's a tall task for Michigan. Florida State 12-0, 6-6. This is another team. Another team. They open with Georgia Tech, Boston College. I think BC will be better. This is BC, by the way, AC. If you didn't notice, are you still with us? This is Cherry Hill, in Boston. This is the Boston College Eagles home field. If you can't recognize it, maybe I didn't mention it, so I just want to point that out to you. Anyway, BC will be improved, but they'll lose to this Florida State team. Memphis will be in play at that group of 5, as we talked about. We'll talk about them if we have time tonight. If we don't, we'll get into it next week. They got Cal, new entry to the ACC. Remember, Cal, Stanford, and SMU now are new members of the ACC. So the only team not in the Eastern time zone that Cal and Stanford will play is SMU, who's in the Central time zone. Can't make it up. They get Clemson at home. I'm going to call that a win. At Duke, I think Duke's lost a step. That's a win. I'm going to call at Miami a loss because I'm going to be a homer here and say this team is finally not going to disappoint. By the way, Van Dyke, the former quarterback from Miami, will be the starter at Wisconsin when they play against Alabama. Who's going up there? Alabama's going up there. He never really worked out. He had a great run near the end of the season, like 3 years ago. Injuries and inconsistent play. And not good coaching by Marco Cristobal, by the way, and his staff led to his demise. Now Cam Ward is formerly of Washington State is the quarterback there. So I'm going to call Miami a loss. A win against Carolina, a loss against Notre Dame. This is going to be a 10-2, most likely Florida State team. 10-2. Likely will get them to the ACC championship game. It's going to be a close. The ACC, the big stories in the ACC for me are going to be whether those two leagues can get 2 teams in to the playoff. You got the 4 major. Well, they're going to get 1, right? Because one of them's going to get a bye. So you got those 4 majors. You got a 5 is going to be the group of 5 teams. Let's just say 3 teams, another 2 teams from the ACC go, or the SEC go. That's 7. Let's give the Big Ten another 2. That's 9. Notre Dame is 10. I got 2 more spots. Does that 4th team get in from the SEC or the Big Ten? And then either the Big 12 or the ACC gets another one, or would you get 2 teams from both of those leagues? It's going to be very interesting to see how that 10, 11, 12 spots play out in my mind. And that'll change a lot probably as we go through here too. So, 7:49. We'll keep going a little bit. Missouri, 11-1, 7-5 is their floor. Their first big game, Texas A&M on October 5th. They got Cupcake City the first 4 weeks. Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt. They combined to win 14 games last year. They'll be 4-0. Missouri on the outside looking into the playoff. Utah, one of those 7 teams with a chance to win the Big 12. 11-1 ceiling, 5-7 floor. 5-7 would be a disaster. This team is too good. Collie Willingham's too good a coach to go 5-7. This 11-1 will be because listen, the Big 12 I think is going to beat each other up. That's why I think they may not get a second team in. You might have a 3-loss team win that conference. LSU 10-2, 5-7 floor. Their early key game is September 1st against USC in Vegas. I think we'll get a test. We'll get a true test of who these two teams are. I think good test for both of these teams in this non-conference game. Clemson ceiling 11-1, floor 6-6, 6-6 again, disaster, and that puts Dabo clearly in the hot seat if they go 6-6. Don't see it happening. I think the ACC championship game will be Clemson, Florida State, Miami. A combination of those three teams will play for the championship, and the other will hope. There's no way they're getting three teams in from the ACC or the Big 12. I just can't see it. Tennessee 11-1, 6-6. They got a lot of offense to replace. Joe Milton, who's really lighting it up at the Patriot summer camp. Oklahoma 11-1, 6-6. I think 6-6 is much more likely than 11-1. This team did not impress me. Outside of that win against Texas, this team didn't impress me last year. Let's look at Oklahoma's schedule quickly. Temple win. Houston at home, it's a win. Tulane won't be a pushover for this team, but 3-0. Tennessee, I'm going to call it a loss. At Auburn, a loss. Texas, a loss. We'll beat South Carolina. Lost Ole Miss. They'll beat Maine. They'll lose to Missouri. They'll lose to Alabama. They may lose to LSU. This team could be 6-6 easily. Again, if I give them the Tennessee and Auburn games, now they're 8-4. Is that good? I don't think so. Good for some programs. Is it going to be good for Oklahoma? Their first year in the ACC to be 8-4 or worse? I don't see 10-2 happening, guys. Certainly don't see 11-1. Oklahoma State ceiling 10-2, floor 5-7. There's a lot of room for teams to either be very good or very bad this year. I don't remember seeing this type of, we can be this good or this bad out of so many teams. The defense is going to be really good. The coach is good. Offense, which was the Cowboys' calling card for many years under Mike Gundy, has been inconsistent and has held them back. They're going to have the best running back in the country, assuming his off-the-field troubles don't keep him off the field. Kansas State, Big 12, 11-1, 6-6. Great coach. Kleiman is a great coach. They lost a veteran quarterback, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Miami, as I mentioned, Cam Ward is coming in. Can the running game and Damian Martinez or somebody else step up there? The secondary have enough depth. The defense has not been good since Manny Diaz left. So I'm not sure, where Manny Diaz is back, by the way, at Duke. So back on the schedule for the Miami Hurricanes. Let me look at their schedule just for giggles. I really haven't given a deep dive yet. Florida, big game. I think Florida and Billy Napier have one of the toughest schedules in the country. I can't see how Florida is going to win this game. The best thing is they're playing home. Miami's got a lot at stake. Billy Napier's got a lot at stake. I see Miami coming out a winner here. Then they got Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida. They should be winners. They should be 4-0. But remember, they lost to some like Mississippi Valley State 2 years ago, early in the season. They got an improved Virginia Tech team at home. I'm going to give them 5-0. At Cal, I don't know how this is going to go with these ACTC teams traveling to the West Coast. but I'll give them a win. That's 6-0. Louisville's going to be a loss, 6-1. Florida State, I think I gave them a win there, right? They got them at home. Duke and Manny Diaz at home to win. At Georgia Tech, a better team. Wake Forest, don't know how they're going to be this year. We'll talk to Larry Sorensen about that on Friday and soon on this show. And an improved Syracuse team. This team should be 10-2 at worst. At worst. But we've seen them fail so many times in the last 7 years when they had looked like they had the talent and the schedule to step up. They didn't do it. Oh, where did I leave off? Texas A&M, 10-2 or 5-7. They got a new coach in Mike Elko, their former defensive coordinator. They get this big game we mentioned before against Notre Dame to start the season, August 31st. It's a primetime showdown at Kyle Field. That's going to set the tone for both these teams going forward this year. Arizona State, without their coach who turned this program around, Jed Finch, who's off to Washington, former Patriot quarterback coach. Their ceiling, 11-1, not seeing it. 5-7 is the floor. Kansas, they got their ceiling is 12-0. They've gotten beat 15 straight times by their interstate rival, Kansas State. So that game might, who knows, that game is going to come up in October, and that could be the difference between this team winning the Big 12 or not. I mean, they got Linwood. Who the hell is Lindenwood? Is it a girls' field hockey team? Lindenwood? Illinois, an improved UNLV team, but they'll beat them. West Virginia, that's a loss. That could be a loss. I think West Virginia is a sleeper in the Big 12. I'm going to give them a loss at West Virginia. A win, TCU, a win against Arizona State, a win against Houston. They're going to come into that game with one loss, that Kansas State game. Then they got all winnable games after that. This team, again, if they go in and they lose for a 16th straight time to their interstate rival, those 4 winnable games might become losses for all I know. That's happened before. It's a very fickle game. But I like Kansas to be 10. Let's see. They're not going to make a playoff. I'll give them 9-3. Former AFL champion quarterback Eddie Wilson turns 84 today. Went to the same Arizona program as Ron Gronkowski. That's with an O, not an A, Chris, but who am I to really correct anybody on spelling or pronunciation? Gronk did go to Arizona, as did his brother. Good catch there. That's why Chris gets paid the big money from this show, because he brings all that in-depth information that the rest of us can't find. USC. I got this team going 6-6. They've got their ceiling at 10-2. Can't see it. The floor 4-8. First game without Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. Well, the tall task beating an LSU team, as we said, October 31st in Vegas. I think they lose that game. And then a few weeks later, they're going to get Michigan on welcome to the Big 12, right? Let's look at USC's potential schedule, or not their potential schedule, but their schedule. I have them losing to LSU. Beat Utah State, lose to Michigan, lose to Wisconsin, beat Minnesota, lose to Penn State, lose to Maryland, beat Rutgers. By the way, Big Ten, USC is traveling to Maryland. Rutgers is traveling to USC. I'm sure there'll be tons of fans traveling for that game. Beat Washington, lose to Nebraska at 6. This team could be 5-7. I've got them losing 7 games. LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State. Well, maybe I should count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As many as 8. This team could be 4-8. I think they lose out. Nebraska, UCLA, Notre Dame. They do get Nebraska at home. They get Notre Dame at home. If this team has grown, this could be a path to a playoff berth for all I know. You know, if they get by this gauntlet and beat either LSU or Michigan, they somehow beat Wisconsin. Now they've started 4-0, and maybe they get some momentum, even if they lose to Penn State on the road. So things could be different. I think if they were to lose at Washington, well, they'll lose out. Nebraska, UCLA, Notre Dame. And this team could have 8 losses. And Lincoln Riley could be losing more than just games at that point. North Carolina State, 11-1, 6-6. This team will be fun to watch. They get Tennessee on September 7th. That's a big game. I like their offense. But I don't think this team really is going to be a factor at the end of the day in the ACC. Iowa, again, they'll be 9-3, 8-4, no offense. McNamara is likely to lose the quarterback job there. We know that Kirk Ferentz had to let go of his son. Well, he essentially, for all intents and purposes, he resigned, but, you know, he was pushed out. This team didn't average 20 points a game again last year. So that's kind of a look at the top 25 and their ceilings and their early games. Let's take a look at, let's get rid of some of this stuff here. Get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. Just cleaning up my screen here so we can see some things a little clearer. Wow, what's that doing there? That's work. Who the hell cares about work? Who are the teams? This is what I wanted. Oh, Group 5. The group of 5 teams. Remember, one of these teams, the highest rated group of 5 team, is getting an automatic bid. They're not going to get a bye unless they're ranked higher than the Power 4 conferences. That's not likely to happen. I suppose it's possible. Boise State has a great year. Memphis has a great year in the AAC. Boise State in the Mountain West. And you got a Big 12 champion with 3 losses. Maybe they're ranked higher. Right? I mean, there's some strange scenarios. I mean, you could have an ACC or a Big 12 champion that's ranked 12th and could be getting a bye. It's possible. Well, that's the case. Wait, I read that today. So that's got to mean they're giving the buys to the Power 4 conferences. All the buys are spoken for. I'll double check that for next week. I'm pretty sure. You want to look at Colorado's record, Rick? I'll do that. I think I did this. I mean, I did it for myself, or I did it. I don't see them in the top half. They are not one of those 7 or 8 teams that I think can compete for the Big 12 championship. I think they finish in the bottom half of this league. Now, people think they'll be better than they were last year. They were probably the most celebrated 4-8 team in the country. What did I say on this right here at this desk that's probably shaking like crazy as I shake my finger? What did I say right here when they were 3-0? I said 5-7 would be a good record for them. 6-6 tops. They went 4-8. All right, they get North Dakota State, they'll win. Nebraska, that's a loss. At Nebraska, that's a loss. They were lucky to beat them last year at home. At Colorado State. Colorado State is improved. Colorado State took them to overtime last year. Non-conference game on the road. Loss. Baylor at home, I'll give them a win. Baylor's going to be improved. Dave Aranda coaching for his job. I'll give them a win. Baylor, that's 2 wins. At UCF. UCF will be one of the most improved teams in the country. They had a great transfer class, including the kid from the kid from Arkansas, the quarterback. His name will come to me here. KJ Jefferson. I expect him to be lights out in this offense. UCF is a team to watch out for in the Big 12. That's a loss. Kansas State, loss. Arizona, loss. Cincinnati, I'll give them a win. At Texas Tech, I'll give them a win. At Utah, lose. I'm sorry, that's home. Lose. Kansas, lose. Oklahoma State, lose. I got 4 wins. I got the same 4-8 record with less hoopla, I'm sure, because those celebrities are not all going to be at those Deion games. Deion's a superstar, but Colorado's not. Nothing against Deion. Deion's a good coach. That's a tough place to win. Bill McCartney did a great job at Colorado back in the 90s, early 2000s. Wins a national championship, split it, I think. Competed for a national championship for half a decade anyway. A good portion of the decade. Competed for conference championships at a minimum. Colorado's not that team anymore. And Deion doesn't get out and recruit. Deion thinks, and supposedly they did a better job of recruiting this year, but as far as I know, Deion still has yet to sit across the table from some kid's parents in their living room or their kitchen. He thinks the transfer portal is the way. That's not the way to sustain success. He could catch lightning in a bottle some year. I don't foresee it being this year. But you're not going to sustain success that way. So I got him 4-8 again. Good question, Rick. Boise State is the number one, by these percentages. So there's 10 teams here. They got a 16% chance of getting there. Spencer Danielson got the head coaching job here after, some debacle there. But he was the interim and he got the full-time job. He did lead the Broncos to the Mountain West title last year. They're returning 18 starters, including one of the top tailbacks in the country, certainly in the Mountain West. I think Boise State's got a realistic chance. A team that I've been in love with for a while. UTSA, Texas San Antonio, 15% chance. Questions remain about their offensive line. There's a big change at quarterback after Frank Harris left. They do have some experience, but how good are they going to be? Now, they do have a great, great backfield, and we're going to see if that is enough with that offensive line and the way they run the football. It's a team to be careful of in the AAC. It's an exciting team, though. Liberty, who had a great, great year last year with 1 loss, I believe, played in a New Year's Day bowl game. They got a 9.6% chance of getting to the playoff. They returned their quarterback, Caden Slater, who's a great, great. This is always a good offensive team. Hugh Freeze brought this team to one level, and they've really taken a step up since he left and went to Auburn. So Liberty, you got to watch out for. Memphis, I mentioned earlier, they got an 8% chance. They've got a veteran quarterback in Seth Hennigan. He was he was college football's fourth most productive quarterback last year. Memphis has had a couple of down years. They got some really good receiving talent. This team could surprise, and that's 2 teams out of the AAC, excuse me. Appalachian State, who we've heard a lot about the last few years. They got a 7% chance. Things are going to get harder. The Sun Belt got deeper. They do return Joey Aguiar at quarterback, who holds a lot of records, for this team, and he got a veteran presence. So Appalachian State will be in play. Tulane, who I've always liked. Now they lost their coach, Fritz, to Houston, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So we got a new coach coming in. We got a transfer quarterback from Oregon. John Summerall is the new coach. He was at Troy, had great success at Troy as well. So I think Tulane will challenge in the AAC. That's another team from the AAC. So you got Memphis, Tulane, and Texas San Antonio all in play here. Fresno State, another team from the Mountain West. You're going to see most of this is going to be ACC. I'm sorry, I keep doing that. American Football Conference, the Mountain West, and I think you got one team from the Sun Belt. Fresno State. Again, veterans. When you get to these teams, we're talking about a lot of veteran players at quarterback, at running back, on offensive line, which we're going to probably talk more about veterans as we go forward, because kids are going to stay. To some of these Group of 5 schools, these kids are going to stay in school because they're going to have NIL money that'll keep them there. Troy, we just mentioned Troy. They also have a new coach, obviously. Jared Parker will step in as the coach after building. He's a guy who's got experience building offenses, so Troy may have a better offense than they've had in a while. But I don't think Troy. I think Troy's in a transition year this year. Texas State, one of the teams that may have a biggest jumps in wins this year. They finished second last year in the Sun Belt, behind Troy, and beat Rice in the First Responder Bowl. They come into 2024 as potential favorites in the league. So Sun Belt's got 3 teams in here. So right now you got 2 teams from the Mountain West, 3 from the AAC, and 3 from the Sun Belt. And lastly, Miami. They won 11 games last year in the MAC title. So they're going to have a chance to crash the party in the college football playoff. Who else could, wouldn't it be cool now that Army's and I said this last week, Army's going to be better. Army's had a couple of down years. Army's playing in a league now for the first time in forever that I can think of. I don't think they've ever played in a league in football. I know they have in basketball. I think they've been independent forever. But they play in the AAC along with Navy, although the Army-Navy game in a weird quirk of scheduling is not going to be a conference game. And will have no bearing on the playoff. Still a standalone game for now. But wouldn't it be cool to see Army crash the party? I don't think it'll happen because I think, again, Memphis is too good. We talked about Tulane. We talked about UTSA. And then you got some other. If you had another sleeper in there, throw you a sleeper. I'll say the Army's a sleeper in that conference. Let's see, where else can we go for a sleeper from the Group of 5? Conference USA, we didn't really. Sam Houston's not going to get ranked. Sam Houston could win this conference, and this is their third year, I think, now out of the FBS division. I think they'll be much improved. Liberty's going to be the favorite here. I don't think there's going to be any sleepers here. Of the independents, only Notre Dame. The only true independents are Massachusetts, UConn, and Notre Dame. For all intents and purposes, Oregon State and Washington are independents, but they're still listed, by the way, and will still play under the logo of the Pac-12. Are they going to play for the Pac-12 championship? Anybody in the Mid-American Conference besides Miami? I don't see a sleeper there. Now, the Mountain West is a different story. We said Boise State and Fresno State both with a chance here. I'm going to say keep an eye at a dark horse, two teams, Air Force and San Diego State. San Diego State with a new coach, Ken Nakajimi. I can't say Coach Ken's name, from Navy, is a new coach he's at San Jose State. But I do think San Diego State could be a sleeper here as well. Pac-12 conference, just two teams in there. Sun Belt, we already talked. I mean, if there's a third team or fourth team, because we already talked about App State having a chance. Who else did we talk about in here? Texas State and Troy. Sleeper last year, but they lost their head coach. They lost some stuff. Watch out for James Madison to maybe sneak in there and have a surprise. So anyway, we've gone through a lot of stuff here in that top 25, the group of 5, early tests, ceilings, and floors. So we talked about a lot. Chris is not sure about Notre Dame. Most of their talent got drafted, and they have 2 big rebound prospects. Listen, they brought in. They have more. The biggest guy they lost was Joe Alt, and they've got somebody to step in. Their offensive lines are always good. They brought in better skill position people around Riley Leonard. This whole season revolves around Riley Leonard in my mind. If Riley Leonard stays healthy, he gives them a dual threat quarterback like they haven't had really ever. I mean, they've had passers and they've had runners. And this is a talent. This guy's talented, man. If you watched him play at Duke when he was healthy, go back and watch the Clemson game from last year. This kid is a game changer, healthy. Big if. If he isn't healthy, then you're right. I'm not sure about Notre Dame either. They're probably an 8-14. The schedule's not daunting. The coach is in his 3rd year. That staff is in his 3rd year. They brought back the former Notre Dame coordinator, whose name's escaping me, who left to go with Coach Kelly to LSU. He's now back in South Bend. Coaches take time to mature. Marcus Freeman, I think, avoided potential disaster 2 years ago in his first year as head coach when they got off the horrible start. I think they were 1-3. They got back to a New Year's Day bowl game, which they lost, but they finished 9-4 on the season. I think that was a key to his development. Last year, Sam Hartman and things just didn't click with Sam Hartman at quarterback after coming in from Wake Forest. But I really like Riley Leonard a lot. And I could be wrong here. And listen, Chris, I say it all the time. I live and die by the Billy Packer axiom that I'm sometimes wrong, but never in doubt. I think, and I know Rick might have they do play in Ireland in week 1, by the way. And that, just looking real quick, since we got a little time, we only got a little bit of time. Let's look at those matchups again. In week 0, we got a game that's, I think, a sleeper of a good game, an important game for Florida State. We're going to find out how good DJ is replacing Travis Jordan. Florida State will play at Georgia Tech, who's been much better since a year and a half ago when they changed coaches. That's going to be a little bit of a test for Florida State. But in week 1, as Rick said, let's see, where is that game? Oh, hell, we'll go, where is Notre Dame? The problem is they start on Thursday, right? That's the problem for me. It's hard to go through here. Let me go through the top. I'm going to look at the top games. Let me get. Let's just get to the top 25. Can we please? Why will you not give me? Are you kidding me? You won't let me sort by top 25? Since when? It's usually your default, for crying out loud. Well, FBS Independent. Let's see where Notre Dame is. I'll get them there. Week 1, they're going to be at College Station, Rick. So I'm not sure. Let's see. When are they going to be in Ireland? That's what I thought. They're going to be at Kyle Field against Texas A&M in week 1. When are they going to be in Ireland? I don't know if they're playing in Ireland. Let's see. Well, one of these games is probably in Ireland. It's not that game. I think last year they opened in Ireland. I'm not sure they got a game in Ireland this year, Rick. Sure how to figure this out. Hold on. You would think they would tell me as I look at the schedule here. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the Navy game. I'm looking for an early game. It's got to be a 12 o'clock start, right? Or where's this game going to be at? Oh, that's at MetLife Stadium. I'm not finding a game. Let's see. Georgia Tech to be determined. That's Mercedes-Benz Field. I'm not finding a game in Ireland this year, Rick. Week 1 though is definitely against Texas A&M, and that game is at College Station. So, what other great games do we have here? Week 1. If you got a game, Rick, you know about, tell me, because I'm not sure. And we'll start talking about going Army again and never go, because I just don't have freaking free Saturdays. That's my problem with tying up my Sundays, with watching the Patriots out with my boys. Saturdays, I got to give it to the family. I know I'm such a great person, right? Oh, interesting matchups in week 1. New Hampshire goes to UCF. These guys ought to be embarrassed, some of these schools. I'm telling you. Nobody cares. I said Lindenwood earlier at Kansas. Who the hell and where the hell is Lindenwood? You got North Carolina at Minnesota in week 1. That's an interesting game. These are Thursday games, by the way. Nobody cares. Lehigh will play Army because we always give them a shout out. Temple will go to Oklahoma. These are Friday games. TCU and Stanford, not much to look at here. Saturday, we got some good games. Clemson and Georgia. Talked about that earlier. Key game for both teams. You got Penn State and West Virginia. Some great games right at noon here, guys. Bucknell will play Navy, by the way. Yeah. I love those 2 12 o'clock games. I won't know what to watch. I got to have 2 TVs going that day outside. Clemson at Georgia, Penn State at West Virginia, ABC and Fox. I'm loving week 1 already. Miami and Florida be an interesting game. Miami probably overrated. Florida being counted out and down before they even get a chance to play. We're going to wrap up here in just a minute. Ohio will play at Syracuse. I expect Syracuse to be improved this year. We'll talk about them in the coming weeks. Miami of Ohio will be at Northwestern. We talked about Miami. Important non-conference games will be important for these group of 5 teams. Very important. Who else we got here? Ole Miss will play Furman. Big deal. UNLV and Houston could be an interesting matchup. Sam Houston and Rice. I like Sam Houston to make a big jump this year, as I mentioned. North Alabama at Memphis. These non-conference games will be important. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, huge game at 7:30. Fresno and Michigan could be a big game. That's an important game. That's a team that Fresno might come here and push Michigan in week 1. A lot of games, man. Just looking for some other standout games. That's about it but we got games all weekend. We're not done because we got USC and LSU on Sunday at 7:30 from Vegas, and Boston College at Florida State at Doak Stadium in Tallahassee Monday, Labor Day at 7:30. Wait a minute. Tomorrow's my birthday. Yes, it is. I have another 3.5 hours as a 63-year-old man when I'm 64. I should have got the song out Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed. I want to say thank you to everybody who helped me be 63 and soon to be 64. My wife, especially. Key reason for me still being alive, I guess. I tell her that all the time. She doesn't believe me. But, guys, we're going to wrap it up real quick here. Thank you, guys, for participating. You've been really a lot of fun. I'm telling you, AC, go bet Notre Dame. I'm putting a futures bet on Notre Dame. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm on a FanDuel or whichever one I use. DraftKings I use, sorry. $100 futures bet, Notre Dame to win the national championship. That's a $2,000 win for me. Or a $100 loss, more likely. But anyway, guys, been fun. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you Friday morning with the great Larry Sorensen with us. I share a birthday with Gene Upshaw. Isn't that cool? We'll have Larry Sorensen with us Friday on the One-on-One with Keith Engle show, and then we'll have the Major League Baseball update at 3 p.m. And, of course, the Sunday Stream of Consciousness on Sunday. Guys, we'll see you later. Keith Engle out for the College Football Huddle. Have a great night.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.